The stars were cold and empty when Captain Deho looked out from the bridge window. His ship, the Morning Light, moved through the darkness of space like a small fish in a giant ocean. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. They had been traveling for 3 months now, and everyone was tired. Deho was not a young man anymore. His hair showed gray at the sides, and his face had lines from years of worry. But his eyes were still sharp and clear. He watched the screens in front of him, looking for any sign of danger. Space was beautiful, but it was also deadly. The Earth was far behind them now. It had been dying for years. The air became bad. The water turned dirty. The land could not grow food anymore. People fought over what little was left. That was when humanity decided to leave. They built ships and sent them to the stars, hoping to find new homes. The Morning Light carried 5,000 people in sleep pods. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, doctors, simple people who wanted a chance to live. Deho felt the weight of every life on board. If he made a mistake, they would all die in the cold darkness. "Captain, we are getting close to the target system," said Minji, the navigation officer. She was young, only 25, but she was good at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "How long?" Deho asked. 2 days, sir. We should see the star soon." Deho nodded. The system was called Hope 7. Scientists on Earth had found it years ago. They said it had planets. They said one of those planets might have water and air. They said humans could live there. But they never went there to check. There was no time. Earth was dying too fast. "Run a full scan when we arrive," Deho ordered. "I want to know everything about that system before we get close." "Yes, Captain," Minji replied. On the other side of the bridge, Hyunwoo worked at the engineering station. He was a big man with strong hands and a quiet voice. He kept the ship running. The engines, the life support, the power systems, everything went through him. Right now he was looking at something on his screen with a worried face. "Captain, we have a problem," Hyunwoo said. Deho turned to him. "What is it?" "The fuel cells are running low. Lower than they should be. We must have a leak somewhere." The bridge became quiet. Everyone stopped and looked at Hyunwoo. A fuel leak in space was very bad. Without fuel, they could not slow down. They would fly past Hope 7 and keep going into the empty dark forever. "How bad?" Deho asked calmly. He kept his voice steady even though his heart was beating fast. "If we don't fix it, we will run out in 4 days. We need at least 5 days' worth of fuel to slow down and enter orbit around Hope 7. Deho thought quickly. "Can you find the leak?" "I'm working on it. But the ship is big. It could be anywhere in the fuel lines, and we can't just shut everything down to look. We need power to stay alive." Deho walked to Hyunwoo's station and looked at the numbers on the screen. They were not good. He put his hand on the engineer's shoulder. "Do your best. Find that leak. Take whoever you need from the crew." "Yes, sir." 2 hours later, Hyunwoo was crawling through the maintenance tunnels deep inside the ship. The tunnels were narrow and dark. The air was hot and smelled like metal. He carried a scanner in one hand and a light in the other. Behind him, a young technician named Jiwon followed with tools. "Anything?" Jiwon asked. She was nervous. Everyone knew what a fuel leak meant. "Not yet," Hyunwoo said. He checked section after section of the fuel lines. The scanner showed nothing. No leaks, no damage. Everything looked fine. But the fuel was still disappearing. They worked through the night. More crew members joined the search. They checked every tunnel, every pipe, every connection. Still nothing. The fuel kept going down. Time was running out. On the bridge, Deho watched the fuel gauge drop slowly. Every hour it went down a little more. He did not sleep. He could not sleep. 5,000 people were depending on him. He had to find a way to save them. Minji brought him coffee. "Captain, you should rest. You have been here for 16 hours. "I'll rest when we're safe," he said. He took the coffee and drank it. It was bitter and hot. It helped him think. "We'll find the leak," Minji said. She tried to sound sure, but Deho could hear the worry in her voice. "And if we don't?" he asked quietly. Minji did not answer. They both knew. If they did not find the leak, they would die. All of them. The people in the sleep pods would never wake up. They would drift through space forever, a tomb full of frozen dreams. But Deho would not give up. Humans had survived wars, diseases, and the death of their home world. They were tough. They were clever. They did not quit. If there was a way to save the Morning Light, he would find it. He had to. Hours passed. The fuel gauge kept dropping. 3 days of fuel left. then 2.5. The crew worked without stopping. They were exhausted, but they did not give up. Every person on the ship knew they were in danger. Every person did their part. Finally, deep in the lower decks, Hyunwoo found something. It was not a leak. It was worse. Someone had installed a hidden device on the fuel system. It was slowly draining fuel and venting it into space. This was not an accident. This was sabotage. Hyunwoo stared at the device for a long moment. His hands shook with anger. Someone had tried to kill them all. Someone on this ship was a traitor. He grabbed his radio and called the bridge. "Captain, I found it. You need to see this." Daeho climbed down the ladders to the lower deck as fast as he could. His mind was racing. A saboteur. On his ship. Who would do this? Why would they want to kill everyone? He pushed the questions away. First, he needed to see what Hyunwoo had found. The maintenance tunnel was cramped and hot. Daeho had to duck his head to fit through. He found Hyunwoo kneeling beside a section of the fuel line. The engineer pointed to a small metal box attached to the pipe. "Wires ran from the box into the ship's systems. What is that?" Daeho asked. "A drainage device," Hyunwoo said. His voice was angry. "It's been slowly opening valves to vent fuel into space. Someone put it here before we launched. Someone on Earth." Daeho felt cold. Before they launched, there had been protests. Some groups said humans should stay on Earth and fix their mistakes. They said running away to the stars was wrong. They tried to stop the colony ships from leaving. But Daeho never thought they would go this far. "Can you remove it?" he asked. "Yes, but we've already lost too much fuel. Even if I stop the leak now, we don't have enough to slow down and orbit Hope 7. Hyunwoo looked at his captain with sad eyes. "We're going too fast. We'll fly right past the planet." Daeho was quiet for a moment. He thought about the 5,000 people sleeping below. Farmers who wanted to plant seeds in new soil. Teachers who wanted to teach children under a new sun. Families who just wanted a chance to live. He could not let them down. "How much fuel do we have?" he asked. 2 days' worth. Maybe a little more if we're lucky. "And we need 5 days to slow down properly?" "Yes, sir." Daeho looked at the device on the fuel line. Someone had tried to murder them. Someone thought humanity should die rather than spread to the stars. But they were wrong. Humans were survivors. They adapted. They found ways. That was what made them special. "Remove the device," Daeho ordered. "Then come to the bridge. We need to make a new plan." Back on the bridge, Daeho gathered his senior crew. Besides Minji and Hyunwoo, there was Sunhee, the doctor, and Taejin, the security chief. They all looked tired and worried. "We have a problem," Daeho began. He explained about the sabotage device and the fuel shortage. When he finished, everyone was silent. They knew what it meant. Death was chasing them through the stars. "Is there any way to make the fuel last longer?" Sunhee asked. She was a small woman with quick, smart eyes. Hyunwoo shook his head. "We're already running at minimum power. If we cut more, people will start dying from cold or lack of air." "What if we don't slow down the normal way?" Minji said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. She walked to the navigation screen and pulled up a map of the Hope 7 system. "What if we use the planet itself to slow us down?" "Aerobraking?" Hyunwoo asked. "That's crazy. This ship wasn't built for that." "What is aerobraking?" Taejin asked. He was a soldier, not an engineer, Minji explained. "We fly into the planet's atmosphere at high speed. The air friction slows us down. It's like using the air as a brake. But it's dangerous. Very dangerous. The ship could break apart from the heat and pressure." "How dangerous?" Daeho asked. "I don't know," Minji said honestly. "The Morning Light is a colony ship, not a fighter. We have heat shields, but they're not designed for this. The angle has to be perfect. Too steep and we burn up. Too shallow and we bounce off into space." "What are our chances?" Daeho asked. Minji looked at him directly. "Maybe 50%. Maybe less. I would need to run many calculations, and even then I can't be sure." "And if we don't try?" Daeho asked, though he already knew the answer. 0%, Hyunwoo said quietly. "We fly past Hope 7 and keep going until our life support fails. Everyone dies." Daeho looked at each of his crew members. They looked back at him, waiting for his decision. He was the captain. The choice was his. He could play it safe and guarantee death, or take a risk and maybe save them all. But it was not really a choice at all. Humans had always been risk-takers. They climbed mountains they might fall from. They sailed oceans they might drown in. They flew to the moon when everyone said it was impossible. Taking risks was what humans did. It was who they were. We'll do the aerobraking, Daeho said. Minji, start your calculations. Hyungwoo, I need you to strengthen the heat shields. Use whatever materials we have. Sunhee, prepare the medical bay. If this goes wrong, there will be injuries. Taijin, make sure everyone is secure. I don't want anyone getting hurt when we hit the atmosphere. Yes, Captain, they all said together. And one more thing, Daeho added. Don't tell the awake crew everything. Tell them we're doing a difficult maneuver. If they know how dangerous it really is, they'll panic. We need everyone focused and calm. The crew nodded and went to work. Daeho stood alone on the bridge and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there was Hope 7, a new world, a second chance. He would get his people there or die trying. There was no other option. The next day passed in a blur of activity. Minji worked on her calculations, running simulation after simulation. Each one showed different results. Sometimes the ship made it through. Sometimes it burned up. Sometimes it bounced off and spun into space. She adjusted the angle, the speed, the timing, over and over again. Hyunwoo and his team pulled panels from empty storage rooms and bolted them to the ship's hull. They were not real heat shields, but they might help. Every extra layer of protection could make the difference between life and death. Sunhee prepared medical supplies and made sure the medical bay was ready for mass casualties. She did not like to think about it, but she had to be realistic. If the aerobraking failed, there would be many injured people. Maybe too many for her to save. Taejin walked through the ship, checking that everything was tied down and secure. He talked to the crew members who were awake, calming their fears. He told them the captain had everything under control. He said they would make it to Hope 7 safely. He hoped he was telling the truth. Daeho watched it all from the bridge. He barely slept. He could not eat. His stomach was tight with worry. But he kept his face calm and his voice steady. The crew needed to see him confident. They needed to believe he knew what he was doing. Finally, Hope 7 appeared on the view screen. It was a blue and green planet with white clouds. It looked like Earth, beautiful and alive. Daeho felt his heart skip. This was what they had come all this way for. This was the future of humanity. Captain, Minji said, I have the course ready, but I have to warn you. The margin for error is very small. If we're off by even 1 degree, we die. Daeho took a deep breath. Then we won't be off. Set the course, Minji. It's time to bring our people home. The morning light turned toward Hope 7. The planet grew larger on the view screen with each passing hour. Daeho could see the continents now, the oceans, the ice caps at the poles. It looked so peaceful from space. He wondered if it would be their grave or their salvation. All crew, this is the captain, Daeho spoke into the ship-wide intercom. In 1 hour, we will begin our approach to Hope 7. This is going to be rough. Everyone needs to strap into their seats and stay there until I give the all clear. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Throughout the ship, the crew stopped what they were doing and found their seats. They pulled the safety straps tight across their chests. Some prayed. Some held hands with the person next to them. Some just stared, straight ahead, trying not to think about what was coming. On the bridge, Minji checked her calculations one last time. Her hands were shaking slightly. She had never done anything like this before. None of them had. Aerobraking was usually only done with small probes, not massive colony ships carrying thousands of people. Course is locked in, Captain, she said. Her voice sounded steady, but Daeho could hear the fear underneath. You did good work, Minji, Daeho said. I trust you. We all do. Minji smiled a little. Thank you, sir. I hope I did the math right. We're about to find out, Hyunwoo said from his station. He was watching the ship's structural integrity monitors. Everything was green for now, but that would change soon. The planet filled the entire view screen now. They were so close Daeho could see storms moving across the ocean. Mountains rising from the land, rivers cutting through valleys. It was beautiful. It was alive. It could support human life, if they could just reach it. 30 minutes to atmosphere, Minji announced. Daeho gripped the arms of his captain's chair. This was it. No turning back now. They were committed. The morning light was flying straight toward the planet at thousands of kilometers per hour. In 30 minutes, they would either slow down enough to orbit, or they would become a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. The minutes crawled by. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the hum of the ship's systems and the occasional beep from the navigation computer. Daiho watched the countdown timer. 20 minutes. 15. 10. 5 minutes, Minji said. Beginning final approach. The ship adjusted its angle. Daiho felt the deck tilt beneath his feet. The morning light turned its belly toward the planet, presenting its heat shields to the atmosphere. This was the most vulnerable position possible. If the shields failed, if the angle was wrong, if anything went bad, they would all die in seconds. 1 minute, Minji said. Her voice was tight. All hands brace for impact, Daiho said into the intercom. 30 seconds. 20. 10. The ship hit the upper atmosphere. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Daiho felt a slight vibration. It grew stronger. The ship began to shake. The vibration became a rumble. The rumble became a roar. The entire ship was rattling like it was being shaken by a giant hand. Warning lights flashed on every console. Alarms blared. The structural integrity monitors were showing yellow, then orange. The heat shields were heating up. 500 degrees. 1,000. 2,000. The air outside the ship was compressing and heating from the friction of their speed. Hull temperature rising, Hyunwoo shouted over the noise. 3,000 degrees. 4,000. Daiho could see fire through the view screen. They were surrounded by flames. The morning light had become a comet blazing through the sky. He hoped the people on the ground could not see them. He hoped they were not watching what might be humanity's funeral pyre. We're slowing down, Minji called out. The atmosphere is working. We're slowing down. But the shaking was getting worse. Daiho's teeth rattled. His vision blurred from the vibration. He could hear metal groaning. Something somewhere was bending, maybe breaking. The ship was not designed for this kind of stress. Heat shield damage on Section 7, Hyunwoo shouted. Section 12 is showing stress fractures. Can we hold together? Daiho asked. I don't know, Hyunwoo said honestly. We're at the limit, maybe beyond it. An explosion rocked the ship. Sparks flew from one of the consoles. The lights flickered. Someone screamed in another part of the ship. Daiho grabbed his radio. Damage report, he demanded. Section 7 heat shield failed. Came a voice through static. We have a fire. We're fighting it. Keep that fire contained, Daiho ordered. If it spreads to the fuel lines, we're done. Yes, Captain. The shaking continued. The temperature kept climbing. 6,000 degrees outside the hull. 7,000. Daiho did not know how much more the ship could take. The heat shields were designed for re-entry, but not like this. Not at these speeds. Not at this angle. Speed dropping, Minji reported. We're at 3,000 kilometers per hour. 2,500. 2,000. Come on, Daiho whispered. Hold together. Just a little longer. Another explosion, larger this time. The whole ship lurched to one side. Alarms were screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. Daiho was thrown against his seat straps. He tasted blood in his mouth. Section 12 just blew out, Hyunwoo yelled. We're venting atmosphere. Emergency seals are closing, but we lost 5 compartments. Were there people in those compartments? Daiho demanded. No, sir. They were storage areas. Daiho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. At least no one had died. Yet. Speed at 1,500, Minji called. We're almost through the worst of it. Temperature starting to drop. 8,000 degrees. 7,000. 6,000. The shaking began to ease. The roar became quieter. The flames outside the view screen started to fade. Daiho could see sky now instead of fire. Blue sky with white clouds. The most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Speed at 1,000, Minji said. She was crying and smiling at the same time. We made it. We actually made it. The morning light broke through the lower atmosphere and into clear air. Below them, Daiho could see forests and rivers, mountains in the distance. The land was green and alive. It was perfect. It was home. All hands. This is the captain, Daiho said. His voice was rough with emotion. We have successfully entered orbit around Hope 7. Well done, everyone. Well done. Cheers erupted throughout the ship. People were hugging, crying, laughing. They had done the impossible. They had survived. Against all odds, they had brought humanity to a new world. But Daiho knew their work was not finished. They had survived the landing, but now they had to survive everything that came next. They had to build a colony, find food and water, deal with whatever challenges this new world threw at them. The hard part was just beginning. The morning light settled into orbit around Hope 7. The damage from the aero braking was worse than Daiho had hoped, but better than he had feared. 5 compartments were destroyed. 2 heat shields were completely gone. There were fires in 3 sections, but the crews had put them out. Most importantly, no one had died. Hyunwoo, give me a full damage report, Daiho said. He was exhausted, but there was no time to rest. The engineer looked at his screens and shook his head. It's not good, Captain. The main engines are damaged. We can't leave orbit even if we wanted to. The life support systems took a beating. We're running at 60% capacity, and we lost most of our landing shuttles in the compartment blowouts. How many shuttles do we have left? Daiho asked. 3. Maybe 4 if we can repair one of the damaged ones. Daiho did the math in his head. They had 5,000 people on board. Even if they packed the shuttles full, they could only move 100 people at a time. It would take 50 trips to get everyone to the surface. That would take weeks, maybe months. And with life support failing, they did not have months. What about the planet? He asked Minji. What do the scans show? Minji pulled up the scan results on the main screen. The air is breathable. 20% oxygen. Mostly nitrogen, same as Earth. Temperature ranges are good. We detected water, forests, what looks like grasslands. No signs of intelligent life, but there are animals. Lots of them. Dangerous animals? Taejin asked. The security chief was already thinking about threats. We don't know yet, Minji admitted. We'll need to send a survey team down first to check. Daiho made his decision. All right. Here's what we're going to do. Taejin, pick your best people. You're going down first with a survey team. Take scientists, engineers, anyone who can help assess the situation. Find us a good landing site, somewhere with fresh water, flat ground, and natural resources. Yes, sir, Taejin said. Hyunwoo, start waking up the colonists. Begin with the engineers and construction workers. We need to start building a base camp as soon as possible. Sonny, prepare medical teams. Some of the colonists have been in sleep for 3 months. They'll need checkups. What about you, Captain? Minji asked. You haven't slept in 2 days. I'll sleep when everyone is safe on the ground, Daiho said. Now let's get to work. 6 hours later, the first shuttle launched from the morning light. Taejin was on board with 20 other people. Scientists, soldiers, engineers. They strapped themselves into the shuttle seats and watched through the windows as they descended toward the planet. The shuttle shook as it entered the atmosphere, but nothing like the terrible shaking of the aerobraking. This was normal re-entry. Safe and controlled. Within minutes, they broke through the clouds and saw the land below. It was beautiful. Green forests stretched to the horizon. Rivers cut through valleys like silver ribbons. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks covered in snow. It looked like Earth before humans had ruined it, wild and clean and full of life. I see a good landing site, the pilot said. Flat grassland near a river. No trees to block our approach. Take us down, Taejin ordered. The shuttle descended slowly. The landing gear extended. They touched down with a gentle thump. For a moment, nobody moved. They just sat there, looking out at the new world through the windows. They were the first humans to stand on Hope 7, the first to breathe its air, the first to start a new chapter in human history. Well, Taejin said, are we going to sit here all day, or are we going to explore our new home? The hatch opened. Taejin stepped out first. His boots touched alien soil. The grass was purple instead of green, but it felt soft under his feet. The air smelled sweet like flowers. A warm breeze blew across the plain. In the distance, he could hear birds calling, or something like birds. One by one, the others followed him out. They spread across the landing site, taking samples, running tests, setting up equipment. The scientists were excited. The engineers were already planning where to put buildings. The soldiers kept watch, making sure nothing dangerous was nearby. A woman named Yoonji knelt beside the river and tested the water. She was a biologist. She had studied Earth's oceans before they died. Now she was looking at alien water for the first time. She ran it through her scanner and smiled. "It's clean," she announced. "No harmful bacteria that I can detect. We can drink this." Tejan nodded and spoke into his radio. "Captain, the water is safe. The air is good. This site will work. You can start sending people down." "Understood," Deho's voice crackled back. "We're waking more colonists now. The first group will be down in 3 hours. Good work, Tejan." The survey team worked through the day. They marked out areas for housing, farming, and storage. They found good soil for planting. They discovered fruit trees with strange but edible fruit. By evening, they had a complete map of the area and a plan for the colony. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and purple, Tejan stood on a hill and looked out over the land. Hope 7 was everything they had hoped for, everything they had traveled so far to find. Humans had a second chance. They would not waste it. Over the next week, shuttle after shuttle brought people down from the morning light. The base camp grew quickly. Temporary shelters went up first, then more permanent buildings. Gardens were planted. A well was dug. Slowly but surely, humanity was putting down roots in their new home. Deho stayed on the ship until almost everyone else was on the ground. He watched from orbit as the colony took shape. Lights appeared in the darkness where the base camp stood. Fires burned where people cooked meals and gathered to talk. It looked like hope. It looked like home. Finally, on the 8th day, Deho took the last shuttle down. Only a small crew remained on the morning light to keep the ship running. Everyone else was on Hope 7 now, ready to start their new lives. When Deho stepped off the shuttle, the colonists were waiting. They had gathered to welcome him. When they saw him, they began to cheer. They clapped and shouted his name. He had saved them. He had brought them across the stars to safety. Deho raised his hand for quiet. "We made it," he said simply. "We are home." More cheers. More clapping. Minji ran forward and hugged him. Yunwu shook his hand with tears in his eyes. Even Taijin, the tough security chief, was smiling. But even in this moment of celebration, Deho's mind was already on the future. They had made it to Hope 7, yes, but surviving here would take work, hard work. They needed to grow food, build homes, defend themselves from whatever dangers this world held. The journey was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. That night, the colony held a feast. They roasted the strange alien fruit and shared their emergency rations. They sang songs from Earth and told stories about the journey. Children played in the purple grass while adults talked about their plans for tomorrow. Deho sat by the fire and watched his people. They were happy. They were alive. They had a future. That was all that mattered. Humans had proven once again that they could survive anything. They could cross impossible distances. They could overcome any obstacle. They could start over when everything was lost. Someone handed Deho a cup of water from the river. He drank it slowly, tasting the sweetness. Water from a new world, water that would help humanity grow and thrive. He looked up at the stars and saw the morning light passing overhead, a bright dot in the night sky. Their old home circling above their new one. Tomorrow they would start building a real colony. Tomorrow they would plant crops and construct houses. Tomorrow they would begin the hard work of making Hope 7 their home. But tonight they would celebrate. Tonight they would remember how far they had come and how lucky they were to be alive. 3 months passed on Hope 7. The base camp had grown into a small town. Rows of buildings lined dirt streets. Fields of earth crops grew beside the river, mixed with experiments using local plants. The colonists had learned which native fruits were safe to eat and which ones to avoid. They had mapped the surrounding area and found no dangerous predators. Life was good, but Deho could not relax. Something bothered him. The sabotage device on the morning light kept him awake at night. Someone had tried to kill them all. Someone who believed humans should not spread to the stars. What if there were more saboteurs? What if they were here in the colony? He shared his worries with Taijin one evening. They were walking along the river, checking the water purification systems. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the purple grass. "You think someone here is working against us?" Taijin asked. "I don't know," Deho admitted, "but we should be careful. Keep your eyes open. If anything seems wrong, tell me immediately." Taijin nodded. "I will, Captain." The next morning, Deho was proven right. A fire broke out in the seed storage building. Half of their backup seeds were destroyed before they could put out the flames. Taijin investigated and found evidence that the fire was started deliberately. Someone had poured fuel in the corner and lit it. "We have a traitor," Tajin reported to Deho. His face was grim, someone who wants the colony to fail. Deho called a meeting of the colony leaders. Besides Tajin, there was Minji, Hyunwoo, Sun-hee, and several others who had taken on leadership roles. They gathered in the main hall, a large building they used for meetings and celebrations. "Someone is sabotaging us," Deho told them. "First the fuel drain on the morning light, now this fire. We need to find whoever is doing this before they do more damage." "How do we find them?" Hyunwoo asked. "There are 5,000 people here. It could be anyone." "We watch," Tajin said. "We look for anyone acting strange. Anyone who seems unhappy with the colony's success. Anyone who talks about going back to Earth." Over the next week, they investigated quietly. They talked to people, watched for suspicious behavior, checked alibis for the time of the fire. Slowly, they narrowed down the suspects. There were 3 people who had been seen near the seed storage before the fire. 3 people who had acted strangely in recent weeks. One of them was a young man named Jinho. He was quiet and kept to himself. He worked in the gardens but never seemed happy about it. When Tajin questioned him, Jinho's story did not match up. He said he was in his quarters during the fire, but 2 people said they saw him near the storage building. Tajin brought Jinho to Daeho. The young man looked scared, but also defiant. He sat in a chair and stared at the floor. "Did you start the fire?" Daeho asked gently. He did not want to scare the boy. He wanted the truth. Jinho said nothing. "We know you were there," Tajin said. "We have witnesses. Just tell us why. Help us understand." Jinho looked up. His eyes were full of tears. "We should not be here," he said quietly. "Humans destroyed Earth. We ran away instead of fixing our mistakes. Now we're going to destroy this planet too." "So you tried to kill us all?" Daeho asked. "You put that device on the fuel system?" "No, that was someone else. Someone from my group on Earth. I just started the fire. I wanted to slow us down, make it harder to build the colony, give people time to think about what we're doing." Daeho stood and walked to the window. Outside he could see children playing in the streets, farmers working in the fields, engineers building new structures, people living and laughing and working toward a future. This was not destruction. This was hope. "You're wrong," Daeho said, turning back to Jinho. "Yes, we made mistakes on Earth, terrible mistakes, but we learned from them. Look around this colony. We use solar power and wind power. We plant trees for every building we construct. We protect the local wildlife. We test everything to make sure we don't harm this world." "Words," Jinho muttered. "Just words. In 100 years, this planet will look like Earth, dead and used up." "Maybe," Daeho admitted. "Or maybe we really have learned. Maybe this time we'll do better. But we'll never know unless we try. And you almost took that chance away from 5,000 people. Children who never had a say in what happened to Earth. Old people who just wanted one more sunrise. Families who dreamed of a peaceful life." Jinho started crying. "I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. My group on Earth, they said humans were a plague. They said we should die out rather than spread." "Your group was wrong," Daeho said firmly. "Humans are not a plague. We make mistakes, yes, but we also create beauty. We build, we dream, we love. We write music and paint pictures and tell stories. We help each other. We sacrifice for strangers. That makes us worth saving." He walked over and put his hand on Jinho's shoulder. "I'm not going to punish you harshly. You made a mistake because someone filled your head with lies. But you're going to help rebuild what you destroyed. You're going to work in those fields and help this colony grow. And maybe in time you'll see that we can do better. That we are doing better." Jinho nodded, wiping his eyes. "Yes, Captain." Over the following months, Jinho did exactly that. He worked harder than anyone. He helped replant the destroyed seeds. He volunteered for the most difficult jobs. Slowly, the other colonists forgave him. They saw that he was trying to make up for his mistake. The colony continued to grow. A year passed, then 2. Children were born on Hope 7, the first generation of humans to call this world home. The crops flourished. The buildings became more sophisticated. They even managed to repair one of the Morning Light's shuttles and sent it up to the ship occasionally to salvage materials. Daeho stepped down as colony leader after 3 years. He had done his job. He had brought them to Hope 7 and helped them establish a home. Now it was time for others to lead. He became a teacher instead, telling the children about Earth and the journey across the stars. He wanted them to know where they came from and why it mattered. One day, a child asked him a question. "Teacher Deho, why did humans leave Earth? Why didn't they stay and fix it?" Deho thought for a moment. "Because sometimes a fresh start is what you need to change. On Earth, people were stuck in old ways of thinking, old habits, old conflicts. Here on Hope 7, we could start over. We could decide to do things differently." "Are we doing things differently?" another child asked. "Yes," Deho said with a smile. "Look around. We use clean energy. We protect the forests. We only take what we need and give back when we can. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and that's what matters. Humans always try. Will we ever go to other planets?" a boy asked. His eyes were bright with excitement. "Maybe," Deho said. "When you grow up, maybe you'll build ships and fly to the stars. Maybe you'll find other worlds and start new colonies. That's what humans do. We explore, we spread, we survive, no matter how far we have to go or how hard the journey is." That evening, Deho sat outside his small house and watched the sunset. The sky turned shades of orange and purple and red. 2 moons rose over the mountains, casting silver light across the land. It was different from Earth sunsets, but it was beautiful in its own way. Minji came and sat beside him. She was older now, with gray in her hair, but her eyes were still sharp. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked. "Sometimes," Deho admitted. "I miss the way things were before we ruined them. The blue sky, the green grass, the animals that used to roam the plains. But this is home now. Hope 7 is home." "We did good, didn't we?" Minji asked. "We saved humanity. We gave it a chance," Deho corrected. "The rest is up to the people who come after us. They'll decide what humanity becomes. We just gave them the opportunity." They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars come out. Somewhere up there was Earth, so far away now that its light took years to reach them. Maybe Earth had recovered. Maybe other ships had launched and found other worlds. Maybe humanity was spreading across the galaxy, learning from its mistakes and building a better future. Or maybe Hope 7 was all that was left. Maybe they were the last humans in the universe. It did not matter. They were here. They were alive. They had survived an impossible journey and built a home on an alien world. They had proven that humans could overcome anything, that no obstacle was too great, that no distance was too far. That was the human story. They survived. They adapted. They thrived. From the caves of ancient Earth to the purple grasslands of Hope 7, humans kept going. They faced extinction and refused to accept it. They looked at the impossible and said, "Watch me." Deho smiled and stood up. It was getting late. Tomorrow he would teach again. Tomorrow the colony would continue to grow. Tomorrow humanity would take another step forward into its future. Whatever that future held, Deho knew one thing for certain. Humans would be there, stubborn and determined, refusing to give up. Because that was what humans did. They survived always.